Professional wrestling has always thrived on larger-than-life characters. Heroes who inspire, villains who terrify, and icons who live forever in the memories of fans. But sometimes, the chaos inside the ring spills into real life. Sometimes, the biggest battles aren't fought under bright lights, but behind closed doors. For decades, Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was the wrestler, the face of an entire generation, the man who transformed wrestling into mainstream pop culture. His booming voice, his handlebar mustache, and the unstoppable force of Hulkamania made him one of the most recognizable athletes on Earth. Kids saw him as a superhero. Parents saw him as a role model. He was everywhere, on lunchboxes, in cartoons, on posters. But behind the red and yellow tights, behind the slogans about vitamins and prayers, was a family slowly unraveling. At the center of that storm was his daughter, Brooke Hogan, a young woman who grew up under the spotlight, only to face betrayal, scandal, and heartbreak most of us can't imagine. This is not just the story of Hulk Hogan. It is the tragic downfall of America's first wrestling family. Terry Jean Bollea was born on August 11, 1953, in Augusta, Georgia. By the 1980s, the world knew him only as Hulk Hogan. He wasn't just a top star. He was the symbol of wrestling itself. He slammed Andre the Giant, headlined WrestleMania, and brought the WWF from smoky halls to sold-out stadiums. With his rallying cry, "Train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins," Hogan became the ultimate American hero. At home, Hogan built what looked like the perfect family. In 1983, he married Linda Claridge. Together, they had 2 children, Brooke in 1988 and Nick in 1990. The family looked like the extension of Hulkamania itself, successful, glamorous, unstoppable. But appearances can be deceiving. By the mid-2000s, reality television was exploding. VH1 saw the popularity of shows like The Osbournes and wanted their own family hit. In 2005, they launched Hogan Knows Best. The show followed Hulk, Linda, Brooke, and Nick in their Florida mansion. It quickly became VH1's top-rated program, giving fans a new look at the all-American family. Audiences loved watching Hulk play the overprotective dad. He grilled Brooke's boyfriends. He installed a GPS tracker in her car and even had the ability to shut off her engine remotely. On TV, it was funny. People laughed at his antics. But for Brooke, then just 16 years old, it wasn't entertainment. It was control. Imagine being a teenager already under the strict watch of your father, and then having millions of strangers watch it too. Despite the suffocation, the show gave her visibility. Brooke graduated high school at just 16, released her debut single, Everything to Me, which topped the Hot 100 Singles Sales chart, and her album Undiscovered reached number 28 on Billboard. She was pursuing her dream, building momentum in music, and seemed destined for stardom. But behind the stage lights, her family was heading toward disaster. While Brooke worked on her career, her younger brother Nick was racing cars. With his father's full support, Nick earned a Formula Drift license, but he was reckless. Between 2006 and 2007, he racked up multiple speeding tickets, 115 miles per hour in a 70 zone, then again at 106 miles per hour. The warnings were there. On August 26, 2007, tragedy struck. Nick was behind the wheel of his Toyota Supra in Clearwater, Florida, street racing on wet roads. He lost control. His passenger, John Graziano, a 22-year-old U.S. Marine, suffered catastrophic brain damage and would need lifelong care. Nick, who had been drinking that night, was charged with reckless driving involving serious bodily injury. He eventually served 8 months in jail. The crash destroyed the Hogan family's carefully crafted image. The perfect family that America thought it knew was now linked to recklessness, tragedy, and scandal. To make matters worse, leaked jailhouse calls revealed Hulk Hogan saying shocking things, blaming the victim, downplaying the crash, and even making racially insensitive remarks. For fans who grew up with him as a hero, it was jarring. The man who preached values on TV suddenly looked very different behind the curtain. As if that wasn't enough, another bombshell dropped. In November 2007, Linda Hogan filed for divorce after discovering Hulk's infidelity. The affair wasn't just a private betrayal, it was public humiliation. Hulk had been cheating with Christiane Plant, a family friend who had worked closely with Brooke on her music career. For Brooke, this wasn't just her parents splitting. This was her father's affair dragging her personal and professional life into scandal. The divorce turned into one of the ugliest celebrity breakups of the decade. Linda accused Hulk of living a double life, addicted to intimacy and lies. Hulk admitted to multiple affairs. The financial outcome was devastating. Hulk lost nearly 70% of the family's $10 million assets. But the emotional damage was worse. The trust was gone. The family was shattered. And Brooke was caught in the middle, humiliated and betrayed. In 2008, trying to build something for herself, Brooke launched her own spin-off reality show, Brooke Knows Best. The series followed her attempts to live on her own, away from her parents' chaos. But even in this new chapter, she couldn't escape the Hogan legacy. Every interview circled back to her father's scandals. Every career move was overshadowed by the family drama. She was trying to become Brooke Hogan, the singer and independent woman, but to the world, she was still just Hulk Hogan's daughter. By 2015, Hulk Hogan's reputation had been bruised by divorce, lawsuits, and his son's accident. But then came the scandal that shattered everything. Secretly recorded tapes from 2007 were leaked. On them, Hulk Hogan used the N-word multiple times. He ranted about Brooke's dating life, saying he would rather see her marry a rich white guy than date a black man. Worse, he called Brooke names no father should ever use. The fallout was immediate and brutal. WWE terminated his contract, removed him from the Hall of Fame, and erased him from their website, video packages, and merchandise. For fans, it was like erasing Babe Ruth from baseball. Hogan wasn't just punished, he was erased. For Brooke, this was beyond scandal. It was a personal devastation. Millions of people now knew that her father had reduced her value to her skin color, her dating choices, and money. The man who had once preached love and loyalty had demeaned her in front of the world. At first, Brooke reacted instinctively, with loyalty. She defended him in interviews, saying, "He's not racist. He raised me better than that." She even wrote a poem about forgiveness. But as more tapes emerged, including racist comments during Nick's jailhouse calls, the truth became impossible to ignore. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This was who he was. Brooke eventually admitted that her early defense of her father was her biggest regret. She realized she had been manipulated, trying to reconcile the father she loved with the man the tapes revealed. That denial cost her deeply. From that point on, their relationship unraveled completely. By the late 2000s, Brooke had cut off contact with both her parents. The silence was complete. When she married NHL player Stephen Alexi in 2022, her father wasn't invited. When she gave birth to twins, Oliver and Molly, in January 2025, Hulk Hogan wasn't even informed. For a man who built his entire public persona around family values, Being excluded from the biggest milestones of his daughter's life was devastating. In 2023, Brooke made her boldest move yet. She formally requested to be removed from Hulk Hogan's will. Walking away from millions of dollars, she made a statement that money tied to betrayal wasn't worth keeping. Her peace of mind mattered more than wealth. It was symbolic. By rejecting his inheritance, she was cutting the final chain connecting her to her father's toxic shadow. Meanwhile, Hulk Hogan's body was failing him. Decades of wrestling left him broken down physically. By his 70s, he had endured over 25 surgeries: hips, knees, back, shoulders. Friends said he moved like a man twice his age. The once powerful giant of the ring now struggled with everyday movement. In 2023, Hogan remarried and was baptized in Florida, calling it the greatest day of my life. To many fans, this was a touching moment of redemption. But for Brooke, there was no reconciliation. The years of betrayal, humiliation, and abuse couldn't be erased with a single ceremony. On July 24, 2025, Hulk Hogan passed away at 71 after suffering cardiac arrest at his home in Florida. WWE paid tribute. Legends shared their memories. Fans around the world mourned the end of an era. But Brooke Hogan was silent. Eventually, she broke that silence with a deeply personal Instagram post. Her words weren't glowing praise, but they weren't filled with bitterness either. They were honest. She admitted that love doesn't simply disappear. She wrote about her father's blood running through her veins, about seeing his eyes in her children. But she also spoke of the thick veil that had always existed between them, a barrier that real love never managed to break. Her farewell was not just to her father, but to the idea of the father she had always wished for. It was a declaration of independence.